Welcome to the Gabriel Method Show. I'm John Gabriel, author and creator of the Gabriel Method, a diet-free approach to sustained weight loss. And we're excited to be launching the premiere of Lose the Stress, Lose the Weight, Tapping for Weight Loss. And as part of the launch, I'm very pleased today to be joined by tapping expert Dr. Dawson Church. And we'll be discussing Dawson's work and then do a tapping session together live. Dawson Church, PhD, is an award-winning author whose best-selling book, The Genie in Your Genes, has been hailed by reviewers as a breakthrough in our understanding in the link between emotions and genetics. He founded the National Institute of Integrative Healthcare to study and implement promising evidence-based psychological and medical techniques. His groundbreaking research has been published in prestigious scientific journals. He's the editor of the Energy Psychology, Theory, Research, and Treatment, a peer-reviewed professional journal. He also shares how to apply these breakthroughs to health and athletic performance through EFT Universe, one of the largest alternative medicine sites on the web. As you're listening today, you can learn more about Dr. Dawson Church. As you're listening today, you can learn more about Dr. Dawson Church and his work at EFTUniverse.com or DawsonGift.com. So Dawson, thanks so much for coming. Before we start, I just want to say that your book, Genie in Your Genes, I think is a masterpiece. It's actually my favorite book to come out over the last couple of years. So well documented with amazing mind-bending studies of mind-body medicine. I just think it's fabulous. So I'm a huge fan.
When I wrote the first edition of the book about 10 years ago, I was predicting in the hardcover edition that we would find links. I inferred we'd find links between emotion and gene expression. We would discover that our feelings are what's happening in our hearts, our thoughts, our beliefs would drive gene expression. But there was no research to show that. I just predicted we'd find that. By the time I wrote the second edition, there were about 13 studies that actually showed that things like PTSD, all kinds of emotional issues we had were directly affecting gene expression. I just sent the third edition to the printer, and now there are dozens of studies showing that. So it's so exciting to be at the forefront of this research.
So there's another edition coming out soon then?
Yep, in about 4 weeks.
I can't wait. So how will I know? Will there be an announcement about it, or?
We will. We'll announce it, and it'll be coming out through Hay House.
Great.
And look a little bit different from the old editions as well. But it updates all this research.
I'm a Hay House author too. If you want an endorsement, let me know.
I'd love one. Thank you.
So we can talk about that. And if you can get me a signed copy, I'd be eternally grateful. But I'm really looking forward to it because especially when you look at gene research right now, when in terms of weight loss, there's all these studies. This gene, that gene affects weight gain, and then when people look at that, they think it's the be all and the end all. But when you consider the fact that, the genes are expressing themselves in certain ways to cause weight gain and weight loss, but it's your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings that are activating those genes, then you have to dig further. And that's what you've done. You've gone that extra step to show, there's genetic expression, but more importantly, there's thoughts, feelings, emotions that are activating the genetic expression. And I think the way you've done it is just awesome.
I'll give you a really simple example of that. So we know that cortisol causes the retention of fat. It's a master hormone. It drives all kinds of other protein formation, gene expression throughout the body. It's at the start of a whole cascade of effects, none of which are good for your body. So high cortisol has really bad effects on your body. It ages you prematurely. It adds fat, especially around the waist and hips, has all kinds of other bad effects. When you have a negative thought, when you picture somebody you don't like, when you have a negative interaction with your husband or your wife or your spouse or your colleague at work, any of those things can drive your stress hormones high. What happens is there's a set of triggers that happens as you have the thought, have the emotional feeling toward that person, that is literally sending the same signal to your adrenal cortex to make cortisol. So all those genes in your adrenal cortex turn on, start making cortisol, and where they get the precursors for cortisol is from the same two biological building blocks you need to make your main cell repair hormone, DHEA.
Right.
So we scavenge, we disassemble those DHEA molecules, we scavenge those precursors and turn them into cortisol. And if you have that going on for a long, long time, it affects your waistline, it affects your health, it affects everything about your life. So that's just a very simple example of how thinking a thought, having a feeling, can trigger gene expression, which then makes molecules in your body which directly affect your health, well-being, and your weight.
Right, and we talk about all the time how cortisol causes you to gain weight. So you're clearly a world authority in energy psychology, energetic medicine. How did you get interested in tapping and its role in healing?
John, I wish I could say I was an open-minded, honest, took an honest look at this stuff, but I didn't. When I first heard about this from a close friend of mine who was a colleague, a Gestalt therapist, and he told me about this thing called EFT tapping, emotional freedom techniques. And he said he was having phenomenal results with his clients for depression, for phobias, for PTSD. And I thought, no way. I learned Gestalt therapy. It takes years and years and years of psychotherapy to get through all this stuff. There's no way to be that simple. So he gave me a piece of paper with the tapping points on them. I was so contemptuous. I threw it in a pile. I said, this is ridiculous. I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
This is just hocus pocus.
Right.
So, but then at the time, I had a big piece of commercial property I was trying to sell, and it had gone in and out of escrow several times, and it was about to fall out of escrow again. And I was really anxious one day, and I was pacing up and down, and miraculously, that piece of paper somehow made its way to the top of that pile. I found it, I tapped, and my anxiety just melted like a snowball in the sun. I was so amazed. So that showed me the power of it. I then began to study it, and eventually I decided we have to research this stuff because there was no good scientific research. And that research is just the way stories were, the way ideas were exchanged in ancient times. Today, research is the way stories our big story happens in science, and things change in society. Right. So I began to do research, do more and more research. I research PTSD, research weight loss, research phobias, research other kinds of issues. And I can tell you, when the results began to come in, they were so powerful. I remember getting the first batch of research results from colleagues at the University of Arizona who analyzed the data. And I just sat there stunned. My left brain could not believe the massive drops in psychological symptoms of anxiety, depression, things we were seeing. So I just didn't believe it at first. I did not believe that a simple, short period of tapping could be such big drops in symptoms, but it does. And now there are over 50 studies now of EFT, and they all show the same thing, that your stress drops way down. And now we start to know that your biochemistry changes, your cortisol drops, your DHEA rises, testosterone rises, all kinds of good things happen when you tap.
Yeah, well, nobody's done more research than you in the area, and I'm wondering if you have kind of theories of why it's so effective. I mean, most people just say, it is what it is, and nobody knows, and there's some meridian ideas, but wondering what your take is on that.
Well, the old explanations, what I call the magical explanations, when these phenomena were first discovered in the 70s, and there were several pioneers who discovered them, there was no sense that our brains were neuroplastic. There was no discovery yet of psychoneuroimmunology. There was no epigenetics was an unknown field. So there were no rational scientific explanations for these rapid changes in symptoms. So what they did was they said, well, it must be energy. So the field became called energy psychology, and the explanation of things like quantum entanglement and energy fields. But actually now we know that those things may be at play, but there are real biological shifts happening in our bodies. What happens is, say you have that negative thought in your head and that bad feeling in your heart towards somebody in your life, and you're about to drive your cortisol level sky high and affect your health. If you had that thought and that feeling, that's sending a signal to your adrenal cortex to produce those fight or flight neurochemicals. But if you then just do the simple action of tapping on these acupressure points, it sends a second signal to the emotional brain, which tells it you're safe. Because if you were being chased by a predator,
you wouldn't be tapping yourself. It's interesting.
And so the two signals cancel each other out. It's just that simple. And your body says, hey, that thought about the report I have to turn in or the speech I have to make.
It can't be too urgent.
Can't be, it's not a real threat to my survival. It's just a thought this crazy person out there is having.
That's the first time I've heard an explanation like that, and it would explain why so many different types of tapping works. I've interviewed people where they say, just go like this and move your eyes left and right, or just do this point, or just do that point. So really what you're saying is any point is sending a message to your brain, any type of movement or point is sending a message to your brain that you're safe and canceling out the stress signal.
Yeah, any point is good. Any kind of self-soothing method, like there's one called somatic experiencing, a friend of mine called Peter Levine teaches, which is really effective. EMDR is effective. EFT
Right.
is effective. Various kinds of tapping are effective. Now, I will say, though, that I had a long-standing academic argument with a colleague of mine called David Feinstein, who's a world-renowned psychologist. And I said, tapping any point is as effective. He said, no, tapping the active points is more effective. And we did some research into literature behind it. We found that he was right, that actually the real points have more of an effect than points near them or sham acupressure points. And you can actually measure these points quite easily. There's a device called a skin galvanometer, and because the acupressure points have a very, very low resistance, i.e. high conductivity, a very different surrounding skin, then
So let me understand that. So with the low conductivity, what it means basically is that when you're on an acupressure point, it's the energy is not bouncing back; it's actually getting absorbed and going through your acupuncture meridians. Is that the idea, and that's why it's low conductivity,
that's exactly
or
right.
high conductivity and low
When you
resistance?
tap
Yeah,
like this,
yeah.
it's much like if you take your gas grill and light it. And when you turn it to light, it goes click, 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 click. What that is it's mechanical action, but it produces electrical current, produces a spark, and your gas ignites. So it's the same kind of action, but on these points of really, really high conductivity, so the signal goes throughout your body very rapidly.
I see. I see. That makes sense. So with this galvanizer, what is it called?
Skin galvanometer.
So the skin galvanizer, you can actually feel and hear when you're on a point, like at the exact
Yes.
point, it'll make a different frequency, or what will it do?
Of a different sound, and that sound is very, very apparent to you when you're on the point. The points are tiny, the size of the head of a pin.
Yeah.
When you're on the point, you hear the sound. When you're off it, you don't.
Okay. Cool. So I know you recently wrote a great article on tapping, about using tapping for exploring areas where can't go there areas, I think you said. And I'm wondering if you can tell us more about that.
Often people jump into EFT and have a good experience at a superficial level, but then there are really difficult parts of our lives we may not want to talk about, may not want to explore, may not want to delve into. For example, say a child was abused or neglected when they were young. They may not want to discuss that, and it may be they may have so much emotional charge around that they don't want to get into it. So we have what are called the three gentle techniques in EFT, and those gentle techniques allow us to keep the problem at arm's distance. But we find that when we use these techniques with really traumatized people, like, for example, war veterans with PTSD, they work like a charm. They are so powerful at releasing all that emotional tension within those PTSD memories. We even have done these techniques with people, for example, after the earthquake in Haiti in 2010, we had a team go over there, volunteers, working with people with PTSD. And we had one young girl, for example. She was very young when the earthquake occurred. Her mother was killed in the earthquake. We tapped with her. She had not spoken for 2 years since the earthquake. She had been mute. She was so traumatized, had not said a word. She began to tap, and she began to talk about her experiences. She began to cry. After a brief catharsis, she was running and playing with the other kids. It's amazing how these gentle techniques can deal with even severely traumatic experiences in our early lives.
Wow. Well, a lot of people that struggle with weight have had trauma in their past, and that kind of triggers the weight. Sometimes our body uses weight as a protection from the trauma. It's a reaction to trauma. How do you use tapping with clients that are struggling with weight?
One of the interesting things about research is if you look at research on people with weight problems and mental states, there's a ton of research on anxiety and weight, on depression and weight, but there's almost none on PTSD and weight. And I think if you look at people who are overweight, very, very, very often you'll find abuse, neglect, all kinds of really serious trauma in their childhoods. So that's where we go. For example, in one of my live coaching calls recently, I worked with two women, and one had an addiction to a kind of dessert called a chocolate dream pie.
Nice.
Now, she bought these in a health food store. They had maple syrup and all organic ingredients, and she was so ashamed on the live coaching call. She said, "Dawson, I'm a practitioner. I'm a naturopath. I should not be having this addiction to this one food. And I mastered my addictions to everything else, but I can't seem to break the addiction to the chocolate dream pies. And I asked people to bring their, what I call your fatal food, to the call. And I said, well, do you have a chocolate dream pie there, for the live coaching call? And she said, I ate it already before.
That's right. She brought it for the live coaching call, but she didn't make it for all the way to the call.
I know. So I said,
Yeah.
okay, go to the trash, get the wrapper, and bring it to the phone, and just put it up to your nose, smell it. And she was a 10 out of 10 for craving that thing. I then said, tell me about some other time in your life when you had experience around a chocolate something, or some kind of dessert you craved. And we led her back in time, and she remembered an event that happened when she was 10 years old. When she was 10 years old, she and her parents drove to a different city to visit her brother, who was in a mental institution. He was retarded, couldn't speak, severely retarded, and they just sat there with him for the afternoon. After that, they went out and they had dinner, and they didn't really talk about their son who was in the home. They just ate, and afterwards had, for dessert, chocolate cream pie.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
And her number was 10 out of 10 for that. We tapped on her feelings about her brother, the loss of her brother, not being able to have a normal relationship with her brother, and all the other feelings she had about that, not being able to express her sorrow to her parents. Her parents didn't talk about it, didn't say, you must have felt bad about that. All those unprocessed emotions now are being projected into the chocolate dream pie as an adult. We tapped on all of those, and her craving for that food went way down to a zero. We have just hundreds of stories like this, and you think about that, no other kind of approach could have helped her. She had to deal with the emotions around the food.
Right.
To be successful.
It's really interesting too that it was a chocolate dream pie, and she wasn't making that connection consciously. That the chocolate cream pie, chocolate dream pie was triggering her feelings for connecting with her brother. So I'm wondering if you can lead us through maybe a tapping sequence that would be useful for people to work through some of their issues regarding weight.
I'd love to.
Okay.
Let's all take a deep breath first and kind of change from being in our heads, being in our hearts.
Okay.
I always love to feel a sense of heart connection with people when I do live coaching calls, when I'm on a show like this. I love to just imagine, not just you, John, but everyone who's listening, and just imagine us in a circle of love. It's imaginary. I can't prove it's there, but it changes our states. Let's just shift into our hearts and feel that heart-centeredness and also a love for ourselves and the people around us. So move into that heart state. Now, I'd like you to think about some event that you had as a child in which you were hurt or angry or your emotions were unprocessed. So just tune back to an event that happened when you were a kid. And it could be linked to a food, it could not be linked to a food, but some event that you really walked away feeling hurt as a kid. It could be when you were 4 and you were in preschool and got bullied. It could be when you didn't get something you wanted as a child. It could be an experience with a sibling, with a parent. But think of an event, like a little movie that played. If there could have been a camera on you, what would that event be? So give your movie a title as well. So if your event was the chocolate cream pie, if your event was the bullies in the playground, think about the event and give it a name. Now also, give the event a number, a score on that scale from 10 being maximum emotional triggering, 0 minimum triggering. So if you can think of that experience and you're a 6, then 6 is your number. And I want you to write down your number, the name of your event, and also the part of your body where you feel the emotional impact when you think of the event. So what's your number, where in your body is it, and what's the name of your movie title? So you've got those 3 things now.
Yeah, I do.
So you've got those 3 things. Now we'll tap.
Okay.
Do you have one, by the way, of your own, John?
Yeah, I'm doing one right now as we speak. Yeah.
Okay. Would you mind sharing the movie title?
Michelle.
Michelle, okay. Yeah. And I don't need to know anything more than the title to tap with you. And what's your number thinking about Michelle?
8.
8, okay.
Yeah.
And where in your body do you feel it?
In my heart.
Okay. Okay. So we'll start by tapping on the heel of the hand here.
Yeah.
And say out loud, even though I have this Michelle movie.
Even though I have this Michelle movie.
And I still feel hurt all these years later.
I still feel hurt all these years later.
And I wish it didn't hurt so much.
And I wish it didn't hurt so much.
I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
Whether the hurt goes away.
Whether the hurt goes away.
Or whether it doesn't.
Or whether it doesn't.
I love myself equally as much.
I love myself equally as much.
If I heal.
If I heal.
And if I don't heal.
And if I don't heal.
If I never heal this Michelle wound.
If I never heal this Michelle wound.
I still completely accept myself.
I still completely accept myself.
I am me.
I am me.
I deserve to feel good.
I deserve to feel good.
I deserve to feel love.
I deserve to feel love.
For myself.
For myself.
And others.
And others.
Okay, tap on your eyebrow pointer and say, Michelle.
Michelle.
Side of your eye. Michelle.
Michelle.
All this hurt.
All this hurt.
Under your eye. Had it for a long time.
Had it for a long time.
I may always have it.
May always have it.
Under your nose. It may go away.
May go away.
May not go away.
May not go away.
Collarbone point. Either way.
Either way.
I totally accept myself.
I totally accept myself.
Tap under your arm, about 4 inches below your underarm. Totally accept myself.
Totally accept myself.
Side of your hand again. Just the way I am.
Just the way I am.
Just the way I am not.
Just the way I am.
And the way I am not.
And the way I am not.
Michelle.
Michelle.
Okay, take a breath. Tune back into your heart area. See if it's still an 8, if it's gone up, it's gone down, gone sideways.
Yes, so it's gone down for me. The heart, I don't feel it. Like I'm not feeling a charge here when I think about it. So,
give me a number, though.
6.
6. Okay, so it's gone down about 2 points.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tap again. So other side now. Even though when I think about Michelle, I feel this feeling in my heart.
I feel this feeling in my heart.
And it might never go away.
Might never go away.
I totally and completely accept myself.
I totally, completely accept myself.
Okay, eyebrow point. I'm older and wiser now.
I'm older and wiser now.
Side of the eye. I have a lot more resources.
I have a lot more resources.
Under your eye. I was powerless back then.
I was powerless back then.
I have power now.
I have power now.
I have wisdom now.
I have wisdom now.
And you use 4 fingers now to tap right where your collarbone meets your breastbone.
Yeah.
That's good, yeah. I have perspective now.
I have perspective now.
I have perspective on Michelle.
I have perspective on Michelle.
And your arm, it still hurts.
Still hurts.
And I love and accept myself.
And I love and accept myself.
Whether I totally get over this.
Whether I totally get over this.
Whether I don't.
Whether I don't.
I might be over it now.
I might be over it now.
I might be over it never.
I might be over it never.
I might be over it soon.
I might be over it soon.
I might be over it already.
I might be over it already.
I might never get over Michelle.
I might never get over Michelle.
Michelle, 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 Michelle.
Just a name.
It's just a name.
Has no power over me.
Has no power over me.
Love and accept myself.
Love and accept myself.
The way I am.
Who I am.
Okay, another breath. Tune back into that Michelle memory, that Michelle movie, your body, and see what number you are now.
So now I'm feeling more like a 4 or 5, probably somewhere 4.5, I'd say is what I'm feeling.
Good. So that's a big issue for you, and you need to more work on it. But you've gone from 4.5 or 5 now,
yeah.
And you were a really high number before,
yeah.
And you're working on a issue that actually isn't just that one movie. There are a bunch of other movies that like spiderweb out from that, and so you'll have to probably work on a bunch of those movies for them all to go down to a low number. That's called the generalization effect. We often have many, many similar experiences. We didn't get what we wanted, where things didn't work out well for us, and so you work on one after the other, and gradually the intensity of all of them goes way, way, way down. And then you start to make the connections, like the chocolate dream pie, of how they link to weight gain,
Yeah.
why you're holding on to this weight, why you have these cravings. They make no sense whatsoever. Like one lady I worked with on another coaching call, she craved cinnamon buns. It turned out that her grandmother would make homemade cinnamon buns, and her grandmother was the only person who really cared about her. It was the only
Yeah.
person she felt real love from.
Yeah.
Didn't feel a lot of love for her parents or anyone else.
Yeah.
But so giving up her cinnamon bun craving would mean being disloyal to the memory of grandma. So we tapped on grandma and grandma's love. She then was able to stop projecting her love stuff around grandma into the cinnamon buns, and then she just became neutral towards cinnamon buns after that. So when people have both the tools that you teach, like the Gabriel Method, and they have a handle on emotional eating, then they have this really potent collection of tools that approach the problem both from the emotional end and from the other things that are holding them back.
Yeah. Yeah. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm feeling the issue melting away down to like a 2 maybe. It's just like I just feel it melting. And but I can see what you're saying, that there are other issues then that stem from that, and then I would just go on to those issues and
Yes.
basically just do a session like this and just try to clear out issues. That's pretty much the way I would do it. Is that right?
Yes, and have a bunch of movies to work on. So work on them one after the other. But again, make sure they're events, not generalities.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, I feel really good. I feel like I've actually worked through a serious issue. I mean, obviously, I'm going to do some more on it, but it's a very, very powerful way to get to it. So I appreciate that. So before we wrap up, Dawson, if people want to learn more about what you're doing and all of your incredible research, where can we reach you?
Well, the simple thing is to download my free mini manual, which has all the tapping instructions and has a little sheet called EFT on a page, and that's at dawsongift.com. Just go to dawsongift.com, enter your name and email address. We'll send you a mini manual, and then you'll be tapping yourself in a few minutes. That's the fastest way.
Okay, so Dawson Gift, GIFT.com.
Yes.
And what about the other website I have for you, EFTuniverse.com? Is that correct?
Yeah, that'll take you to EFT Universe, and it'll help you log on to all of the other resources. We have over 5,000 stories. EFT Universe is this massive story archive in 50 languages from all over the world. People write in and say, I used EFT for this, that, and the next thing. So it's an amazing site.
Awesome, awesome. But you want us to go to DawsonGift.com.
That's where you get your free mini manual from, yes.
Excellent. All right, great. Well, Dawson, again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate not only the work that we just did just now, but also just the incredible research that you're doing in the world of mind-body medicine, and bringing this awareness to the world that our thoughts, our feelings are so integrally related to our health, our weight, and so many different issues. So I just think you're a true pioneer in this work, and I couldn't thank you enough.
Well, it's a real pleasure. And actually, I'll tell you one other thing you don't know. That is that I bought the Gabriel Method about 2 years ago, and I loved it. So I saw you there, and when I saw you there, I thought, this is such a wonderful human being, John Gabriel. Your love for people, your care for people so shone through. And I thought, this is a guy I can trust and move with. So I hadn't told you that before the interview, but I did. And I just so admire the person that you came across as in your program.
Thank you. Well, it was 2 years ago when I got your book too, so it's interesting. So we were connecting, but I'm blown away by the work you do and the message you have for the world. So thanks so much for sharing it with us and everything that you do.
Bless you and thank you.
Thank you. Bless you too. Take care. Okay, thanks so much for watching, everyone. That was an amazing, amazing session. Dawson Church is a leader and a pioneer in energy and mind-body medicine, and that sequence that he worked through with me was very powerful for me personally. I hope you enjoyed it. I would encourage you to practice it yourself on a regular basis for whatever issues are coming up in your life, so that the emotional charge is gone, the hormonal chemistry that's caused by the stress is gone, and the weight can just melt off of you much easier. So that's it for now. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thanks very much. Take care.